and welcome. This is Debbie with Light Up Your Worth. And today I am very happy to present one of my friends to you, Jade Dione. Now, Jade Dione and I met. I took one of her crystal workshops online, and you'll notice that she's not here in the States with me. And so I took a class when she was over in the UK, and it was so delightful. She has a really comfortable way of introducing you to crystals, and it's I wouldn't say non-threatening, like nobody's really threatening, right, with this stuff, but it was just a really comfortable conversation in this workshop, and I learned so many new nuggets. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Jade. Welcome. So happy you're here.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So for everybody who's listening, they're going to notice that we talk different. So where are you located on the other side of the pond?
So I'm in England. I'm West Midlands area. So yeah.
Nice. I haven't ventured over there. So now I know when I go next time I go to Europe that it's like I have all these new friends who are all, it's just so cool, right? To be able to travel and be able to actually touch base with people in person. So yeah, I love that we have this ability to take these workshops. I really super enjoyed your workshop. I know I picked up some stuff, and I've studied crystals, and so it's always delightful when you get to pick out something new from somebody and who's just so knowledgeable. So I'm really curious to find out like how did you find your way to spirituality? I know in reading and understanding, you started out and you've done energy work, and you're also a Reiki practitioner, as I am. So I'd love to hear how you found your way into the spiritual world.
Okay, yeah. So I had a brilliant upbringing, mostly by my mom, who was very woo-woo, I guess you would say. There was crystals all over the house. She was always doing rituals and spells and tarot readings for friends, and it was a fantastic upbringing. And I remember for my 13th birthday, she bought me a teenage witch kit, and oh my gosh, it was absolutely fantastic. And it was, I can't remember the author's name actually, but it was written by an author who had wrote it with her daughters, and they designed all these spells together. And I remember I would go to a field close by to our house pretty much every single day of the school summer holidays, and I'll just do these rituals over and over again, and I was just fascinated. It was just daft little things that I was doing, but they were working, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what is this stuff and how is it working? I was absolutely fascinated in it. And then as the years went on, I guess I lost it a little bit as I was growing up. But I guess around 6 years or so ago, I got back into it again. I ended up going to different spiritual fairs, and I went to this one large spiritual fair in London, which is a massive city in England, and there was a shamanic healer there, and she was running this like taster workshop where she had this big teepee, and we all went in there, and she guided us on a shamanic journey. And it was only a short journey, but it was so profound for me, and I saw myself really clear delivering a crystal healing treatment to somebody. So somebody was on a bed, and I could see myself shifting their energy with a feather and placing crystals on them. And I'm not somebody who's an overly visual person. I'm much more of like a feely person. So the fact I could see it so clearly, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really shocked by this. And then after that experience, I knew I definitely had to look more into crystals. And I then took a workshop, which was about 1.5 to 2 years. I learned level 1, 2 and 3 in crystal healing, and that experience was fantastic as well. And it was in person, because a lot of these workshops tend to just be a quick 6 weeks course online, but it was lovely that it was a real like a long journey, and we were meeting one weekend of the month, and we were practicing on each other, and we've just gained so much knowledge that way and so much experience. So yeah, that's how I found it, and I've been doing that for the past, I'd say 3 years now, on the side of my full-time job. And with lockdown, I've sort of shifted online now and hoping to move my work to deliver workshops. So that's kind of the background into how I got into it.
Oh, I love that. There's something so magical about learning it in the slow the slow method of really letting it integrate and absorb and add onto it in the practice in person, that connection. It's so beautiful having a community of people.
Yes, it really was.
I think that's like one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast was that there are so many people who don't have that opportunity. They might be in communities where they feel really isolated and they don't know who to have these conversations with. Who do you go talk to when you've discovered, a new crystal, right? Or um, I went into one of the things I do is here locally is that I go get vitamin B shots, and the lady that I go to has where you can get massage, and she has some chakra uh, things to help you clear out your chakras. And she had this huge crystal. It was like this big, and it was
Yeah.
this big black, and it had like blue and green running through it, and it was so spectacular. And I walked in and she had that, and then she had it in the treatment room, and it was new, right? Both of these pieces were new, and she had received it here at a local place out in Carson City. And I'm like, why is your rock I didn't call it a rock, but I was like, it's talking to me. And she told me what the name of it is. I should have written it down. And then the other one was talking in the other room, and I'm like, okay. She goes, yeah, these two are really talking back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, they won't stop. And she was like they were calling out to me, right, to come over to them and introduce myself. And it was just really, it was those reminders, right? Like this was on Monday, and so, it's like 5 days ago. And I was like, why are they so talky? And she goes, well, they're just really, talky. That's how I found them, right? Or they found me when I went looking for a new piece to bring into this beautiful environment that she has. And so I did Google the name of it. And she goes, I think they're telling you, you need to go have a piece of this in your home. So that's on my agenda over this next week or so, just to drive over there. But it was a reminder of having that community, right? Of who do you
Yeah.
talk to about this property, of stuff that I don't know of. And in fact, I was like, oh, now I'm curious. I'm like, what was that? But it was but the curiosity of being able to have a community where you're able to talk to somebody about, like I could actually say it was a Labradine, Labradorite. Was
Labradorite. I'm wearing right now.
Labradorite? Yeah, yeah. That's what was. Yeah, and it was a big polished. It was a big rock slab, right? And it was so
Beautiful.
talky, and so, but being able to like have that conversation, right? Like you're like, oh, I know what that is, right? You're wearing it, and so that community of being able to have somebody to talk to is so important. And when
Yes.
you're learning, and that was really the whole point of what I was just rambling on about, is being able to have that community to where you can ask people and, hey, who knows what this is, or this is what I saw, and you take a picture of it and send it over to a friend, and being able to openly talk about it. So how did it feel when you got back interested in it?
Yeah.
you know you did you have a community of people before you found the group? I mean, how did you navigate through that rediscovery of that part of yourself?
No, I didn't know anybody who was interested in it. None of my friends were interested, and I always, all throughout my childhood, actually, I always felt like I just didn't fit in because I had all these different interests and nobody to talk to about them. And other than my mom, obviously, like that was amazing to have her. But I actually ended up talking to my partner about it. So when I first met him, he wasn't spiritual at all. He had a lot of resistance against it all. And then he knew I had interest in different things. And then with living with me, he was obviously exposed to different things. And yeah, I ended up sort of going on my journey with him. So thankfully he came to like these fairs with me. But before that, no, I didn't have anybody, and I always struggled to fit in. And then even when I did go on this course and I meet a community of people, even then I struggled to fit in due to being so young. So all of these women were much older than me, twice my age. And I guess the person who was closest to my age may have been like 15 years older than me. So I just didn't really have anyone. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I fit in. I don't fit in with like my normal age group. I don't fit in here. And I think I've always struggled with that, definitely, because it's finding my place, finding my voice. And even when I had this fantastic community, they did listen to me, definitely, but I think I still had this limiting belief in thinking, oh, who am I to be doing this? Who do they even value what I have to say? So yeah, even now, I guess still that is something I do struggle with now. Just where do I fit in? Even though age shouldn't be a factor, because if you are somebody who believes in reincarnation, this is something you've been doing for years, for lifetime. But for me, I know that's definitely always been a big factor in where do I fit in, where do I find my voice.
Yeah, well, that's what I was really drawn to, and the coaching program that we met through, made to do it, and with Kathy Heller, so a shout out to her, how she's just brought together so many of us. And I had made a post in our group about where are all my spiritual woo holistical peeps, right? And there you were. And I just loved taking your workshop and the connection, and really starting to build a community of where people can feel like they're not alone at any age group. And what I've discovered too is that I have found people, like, you're much younger than me, right? Like, I'm mid 50s, and but I have found this community within our community, and they're all age groups. And so I just think it's wonderful that, that people realize that even though we probably all have met each other previously, so us all coming back together isn't really all that surprising in our world, but that, being able to have those new people that we can bring in, and that we're not limited. And so but I know from working and going through your workshop that it was so divine. And so I would love for people to be able to connect and understand, and just really have a way, especially for our younger listeners, right? Like, if they're looking for somebody who's more, younger, and can understand that feeling and relate to, your vulnerable share of how do you connect with people who are younger, but who've been blessed really to be exposed to it growing up. And so there's a lot less things that you have to overcome about, and so where did you get that piece that you are wearing? That is absolutely stunning. And isn't it funny that, oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
That's so, synchronicities that happen in spirituality, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you are wearing the rock, the crystal, right? That I have on my phone that I'm gonna go get. What are
the? I just got this at a local shop at Liverpool to me. Unfortunately, she doesn't do online, so that's a shame. But yeah, it's a really beautiful piece.
Yeah, it is really beautiful, because I believe this stone, from what this is telling me, is from Canada. That's really where it's been was first mined. And so it's just absolutely beautiful that you have it. And so what would you say to somebody who is out there seeking or listening, and they're curious about learning more about crystals? Any advice that you would give them on where they would begin? Or
I definitely wouldn't go off of all that, the hype of these more expensive crystals. I guess you might have heard the hype of the moldavite. I know so many people have been speaking about that. If I was starting again now, I would say go back to basics and choose a crystal, for example, like clear quartz. I think this is a massive underrated crystal, as I mentioned in my workshop. And despite it being a very common crystal and very readily available, it's definitely believed to be one of the most powerful crystals, I guess you could say, and often referred to as a master healer. So I'd say definitely start there, and make your own connection with crystals as well. Don't go off what all these different people are saying about them. You can go in various different crystal books, and somebody will swear by this crystal for one reason and somebody else for this, another crystal for something else. And I would say it's about making your own connection to the crystal and, you know, tuning into the crystal's energy yourself. And I'm really trusting how it's making you feel, and you know trusting how that crystal makes you feel instead of going off what people say that you need to get. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. So when you're at a crystal shop, or how do you interact with them to decide which one you're going to get? I know there's something that I do, but I'd love to hear what you do. Like, so how would somebody know? Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have a certain problem you wanted to get some help with, I would keep that focus in my mind before going into the shop, and then whilst I'm browsing, and just see which one you sort of feel like calls out to you. I guess that people react differently to crystals. Some people might hear them, like you say, you felt like crystals speaking to you. So, you know, you may be physically drawn to one, maybe one might like just look like it's shining brighter than the other, and then you can choose it that way. Or if there isn't any sort of issue you're trying to get help with, maybe just going with an open mind and just again, just trusting your intuition and just going in and just see which one you do feel drawn to, without having anything in your mind beforehand about, oh, I want to go get that one, or I want to get that. I think it's definitely nice to just go in and just choose whichever one, you know, is calling you, I'd say. Mm-hmm. That's what I tend to do.
Yeah, when I go over there, one of the ways that I was shown to do is I know somebody who will like put their hand over certain ones too, to see if they get like a feeling of any type of warmth. I personally pick them up because I like to feel them too, and that's how I receive, you know, like, oh, does this feel good, or compare them, and then that's what I've always done, and I don't even know where I picked that up, right? But then somebody was telling me they put their hands over them, so I was like, oh, well, that's just really beautiful, you know. So
that's the way I teach people actually, is with their hands. So if they use their non-dominant hand, which is their receiving hands, and then just hover over the crystals, and then you can see if you do get a pulsation or a tingling sensation in your hand, and you can do it that way. Or like you say, you physically pick them up and tune into that feeling. The only issue I'd say with that is if the crystals haven't been cleansed for a while, and lots of other people have been picking them up, and they may have infused some of their negative energy, I say, possibly in the crystals. That's the only issue you could possibly run into there. But if the shop is constantly cleansing them, which they should be doing, then hopefully that isn't a concern.
Yeah, that's great. So now, how are you working now with people who are interested? Do you have some upcoming workshops, or do you do one-on-one coaching? How do you actually interact with people who are interested in learning more?
So previously I was doing physical healing sessions on people. So people would come to me with different issues, or just feeling a little bit out of alignment, and then I'd physically treat them. And then obviously, as I mentioned, with lockdown, having to move online, and you can do energy healing online as well. But personally, I've always enjoyed talking to people after the sessions about their energy, and teaching them about the ways that they can use crystals themselves, because I don't want people to think that they can only come to me for healing. It's nice for them to be able to learn how to do it themselves. So I've recently put together a workshop just as like a little introduction to crystals, but I have a lot more planned. So I want to do certain areas that crystals can help with. So, you know, self-love's a massive one for me. I want to help people with anxiety, because that's something that crystals have really helped me with as well. Sleep, clarity. I've got loads of different workshops in the pipeline lined up. So I'm going to help people learn how they can practically use crystals themselves, and to help to relieve these different issues they may have in their life.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious, and I don't know how much you would want to share here, but I'm really curious with this last year, you know, the anxiety level of so many people has really, really increased. And how really has the crystals help you with anxiety and that angst that comes with, you know, just normal life, let alone a whole lockdown globally? And but I'd be how has that helped you? Like if somebody doesn't know anything about, well, how could crystals help me? How would they help in that very specific thing?
Yeah, well, they've helped me massively ever since being a child. So I know you've said yourself that you're an empath, and that's something that I am myself. And as you know, what comes with that is a lot of worry and anxiety, and you take on everybody's issues as well as your own, and it can just be really overloading and a lot. And I remember growing up, my mum was always giving me these crystals to just hold and use, and I would literally just have this bag of crystals I'd take with me everywhere. And if I didn't have, and it was getting ridiculous, like this bag was just getting larger and larger. And, but if I didn't have that bag, oh my gosh, I'd like freak out. And I don't even know what it was, but it was just bringing me so much comfort knowing that bag of crystals in my bag. And if things were just getting too much, and I'd just be able to hold them. And it was just as simple as that. And I just felt like my worries were absorbed into the crystals. And that is a belief of what crystals can do, that they are able to take on your negative energy. So if you do have a lot of anxiety, you can just hold a crystal close to you, and your worries and your anxiety and negative energy can be absorbed into the crystal, and then your energy can feel a lot less overloaded as well. So what I would say to people is it's really simple. So a lot of people can overcomplicate things, but it can just be as simple as carrying a crystal on your person. So I tend to keep crystals in my bra when I'm carrying them around with me. And if I am in a stressful situation or a time when I am feeling really anxious, then I might hold the crystal in my palm, in my receiving hand, my left hand, my non-dominant hand. And I'll just breathe with the crystal and just really tune into the energy of the crystal, and like tap back into the flow state, tap back into my natural state of being connected to the divine, and not just living in my head and being more into my ego state. Just really like tuning back in and allowing my energy to marry with crystal's energy as well.
Oh, I love that. And I know that there's somebody who's listening right now who will hear what you just shared, and it will make a huge difference.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Like being able to, learn how to help themselves through that and get through different situations, because, as empaths, we are super sensitive to everybody around us, and the energy has just been off the hook. The energy from the earth as it has shifted, and all the multi-dimensional things that are happening out there, and we just pick it up and learning how to cleanse it. I have a big is it pronounced celatine, the big long white thing? It's like a big wand, right? And I wand people. It's big, right? I have them in my window seals for any of the energy that comes in, but I have a big one just for wanding.
Yeah.
And it really is so powerful, of being able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is amazing how quickly energy can shift as soon as you do bring a crystal into your energy field. It is fantastic what can happen.
Yeah,
that's what I really want.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. We have a delay. Go ahead, please, Jade.
That's what I want to do. Is I really want to show people the power of crystals and how they really can shift their energy with them. And it's such a beautiful thing they can do. I mean, there's so many different healing modalities, as you know yourself, but this is quite a nice practical thing that they can do, and like a tangible thing. And that's what I think is quite nice about it.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's so, so nice. One of the things I really love about crystals too is that it's simple, but yet, it can get more complex if you want it to be, but you don't have to let that hold you back and everything. So now, if somebody's interested in reaching out to you, how can they reach you?
So through social media. So I am still finding my online presence again, with a lot of my practices used to be in person. So it would be Jade Holistic Healing on Instagram, and that's Jade_holistic_healing. Again, that's the same on Facebook, Jade Holistic Healing, or they can add me as a friend on Facebook, just Jade Dione. You can find me on social media, and then I can talk to you about any upcoming workshops that I have planned.
Oh, I love that. And I'm really hoping that as I launch my membership, that I know they're going to find you in there over this next upcoming year. We still have to work out the details, but I'm really interested in having you on to help people through, learning more about some of the basics. And, I really I'm drawn to using it for the anxieties, right? Some really practical ideas for members who are really struggling with anxiety. I think it's super timely that you understand that so close to your own heart and what a difference it can actually make for us all. So thank you for bringing your light into the world and stepping into it and really leading the way for, people who are younger, right? And who are curious, and being able to hold that space for them and being ahead of them to help them and lifting up others. It's so powerful. So I'm so happy that we have crossed paths and become friends, and through our coaching program. So thank you so much, Jade.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We should definitely do this again sometime.
Yes, completely agree. Okay, thanks.